Hello, welcome back to Grammar Forward. I'm Sonia. In this video, you will learn about yet another advanced English verb tense called the present perfect continuous tense. In our previous video, you learned about another present perfect tense, but that was present perfect simple tense. So let's explore every detail related to this tense. First of all, let me share with you some important points that you need to keep in mind when using this advanced tense. Many a time, it's found that people confuse the present perfect continuous tense with the present perfect simple tense, the one that we covered in our previous video. So when do we use the present perfect continuous tense? It's used to refer to an action that started in the past but perhaps did not finish in the said period of time. That means we use this tense when we need to link the past with the present. So let's go through these points which I have written on the board. Make sure that when we use this tense, the action that we refer to started in the past. And it may have finished in the past itself in the said period of time, or it may be still continuing. It might be going on now in the present time. And the duration of the action is usually emphasized. That is, how long the action went on will be emphasized usually in the sentence. And also, the process as well as the result is important. So equal focus is given on the process and the result. Let me just give you an idea of how this verb tense will look like when used with different subject pronouns. When we use it with I, we, you and they, it will take the form have plus been plus the ing form of the verb. Whereas with the singular pronouns he, she and it changes to has plus been plus the ing form of the verb. So you can see that in this verb tense, we use two auxiliary verbs. You have and been in that case, and here you have has and been. And which one changes according to the subject pronoun? The first auxiliary, that is have, becomes has here, because here we use it with the singular pronoun. So the remaining part remains the same. It's been plus verb and ing in both cases, but this part changes according to the subject pronoun which is used. Now that you already know the rules related to the formation of this verb tense, let's start framing positive sentences, negative sentences and the questions. So you know that for singular subjects we use has plus been plus verb and ing, and for plural subjects we have plus been plus verb and ing. So let's begin with the affirmative sentences or the positive sentences. Here we have I have been studying. Because it's I, we have to use have. You know that I is one person, but it is treated as a plural subject. So we have I have been studying. She, singular subject pronoun. So we have she has been sleeping. How do we make the negative form? We have to add the word not. But where do you add that word? You add it just after the first auxiliary verb have or has. So here we have not been waiting. So you inserted this word not after have. We have not been waiting. He has not been reading. How do you make the question form? You know that in order to make a yes or no question, you just have to invert the word order. So here you have I have been sleeping. So in order to make a question here, you will start with the first auxiliary. So you will have I been studying? So here you have she has been sleeping, that becomes has she been sleeping. So that's what I've written here. Have you been working? So the sentence was you have been working. I exchanged the words. So have you been working? Here, has she been living here? And if you want to ask a WH question, you just have to add the WH word right in front of the yes or no question. So here you have the yes or no question, have you been working? I can add the word where. So you have, where have you been working? The same yes or no question is used, but we just added the WH word. Now let's discuss the uses of the present perfect continuous tense. You know that we use this tense when referring to actions that started in the past and perhaps finished in the set period of time in the past itself, or maybe still continuing in the present. That means we use the present perfect continuous tense to refer to unfinished and finished actions. So here let's focus on the unfinished actions first. It might be used in different ways, and the first way is here. We use this tense to talk about actions that started in the past but continue in the present. For example, she has been working here since 2010. I have been reading for 2 hours. In these examples, you might have noticed how I used the prepositions since and for to talk about time. So what is the difference between since and for? We use since to talk about a point in time, whereas for is used to refer to a period of time. So as shown in this example, she has been working here since 2010. That is from that point in time, precisely from that point in time, she started working. I have been reading for 2 hours. Here we talk about a period of time in which you were reading. We could also use the present perfect continuous tense to talk about unfinished actions, but in a different way. Thus, in this case, we use this tense to refer to temporary habits or situations. That means here again, we talk about actions that started in the past and continue in the present, but there is some difference. Let's find out what it is. So here are 2 examples. She has been reading a lot recently. I have been watching too much television lately. You can see that the same process is going on, talking about actions that started in the past and that continue in the present in both the cases. But in these sentences, you can find a time expression that contains since and for, their prepositions. But here, you don't find such time expressions. On the other hand, you just find the adverbs recently and lately. So here, if you ask a question, how long the action has been taking place, you get an answer. But here, you just have vague references like recently and lately. We can also use the present perfect continuous tense to talk about finished actions. We use this tense to refer to actions that have recently stopped and have a result. Thus, in this case, the focus is on the result itself, and we can see or hear or feel this result in the present. So here I have 3 examples, and in all the 3 cases, I have bracketed the result itself. So here is the first one for you. I'm so tired, I have been running. So here I have used the present perfect continuous tense, I have been running, and the focus is on the result, which is I'm so tired because of this happening. The second sentence, it has been raining. So the present perfect continuous tense is used. It has been raining. And what's the result of that happening? The grass is wet. The third one, you don't understand because you have not been listening. So here again the present perfect continuous tense is used, of course in the negative form. And because that was not happening, you don't understand. So in all these three sentences, you can see that we put all the emphasis on the result. It's equally important to know when not to use the present perfect continuous tense. We never use this tense with stative verbs. You know that in English we have two kinds of verbs, the dynamic and stative verbs. The dynamic verbs are those that refer to actions like eat, drink, play, study, and so on. And the stative verbs refer to these kinds of actions, that is, thoughts, so mental actions, emotions or feelings, senses, possession and ownership, and so on. So with these kinds of verbs, we never use the present perfect continuous tense. Instead, we use the present perfect simple tense. So let's have these examples. Have you been hearing the news? So hear or see is something that is related to a sense. So that is a stative verb. So here we cannot use the continuous form. Instead, we use the simple form. So have you heard the news? Again, I have been knowing her for very long. I have been knowing her. Know is again a stative verb. So we cannot use a continuous form. Instead, we use the present perfect simple. So that is, I have known. The past participle of know is known, and that's enough. I have known her for very long. The third one, we have been understanding what you said. So this is again something which is related to a mental process. So we cannot use the ing form here. Instead, we use the past participle because we use the present perfect simple. We have understood what you have said. Let's now focus on the key words that are usually used with the present perfect continuous tense. So here on the board I have listed them all. You have since and for, which are prepositions. Then you have the time expressions all day and the whole day. And with questions we use the phrase how long. Now it's time to practice what you learned. So here on the board I have written some sentences with mistakes in them, and we are going to correct each mistake. So here is the first sentence. It has been rain heavily all day. You can see that the mistake here is with the form of the verb tense itself. We have used the present perfect continuous tense because we have the keyword all day. So it should be the continuous form. But here the verb is rain. The ing form is not used. So this should be corrected. And we write, it has been raining heavily all day. Now moving on to sentence number 2. Paul has been having his car for 2 years. You can see that I've used the keyword for there. So that means we can use the present perfect continuous form. But then look at the verb. You have as the verb. What kind of a verb is have? In fact, have is a mixed verb. Sometimes it functions as a dynamic verb and sometimes it's just a stative verb. So how do you know whether it is dynamic or stative? From the context. If the verb have has the meaning to take, it's a dynamic verb. For example, you can say, I'm having my lunch. That means I'm taking my food. But here, in this case, it means to own something, to possess something. So in that case, we cannot use it in the ing form because it's a stative verb. So I can just use the present perfect simple here. So that will be changed to Paul has had his car for 2 years. And how did you get this word had? It is the past participle form of the verb have. So you have Paul has had his car for 2 years. Now the third sentence. I am living here since 2016. Here again, you have the keyword since. So we need to use the present perfect continuous form. We cannot here just use the present continuous which is used here. This is wrong. I should change it to I have been living here since 2016. Now the sentence is right. The fourth one. We have been working all yesterday. Look at the time expression I've used there. It refers to the past. All yesterday. So I cannot use the present perfect continuous here. I should just use the simple past. So the answer will be we worked all yesterday. Because you have a time expression like all yesterday, we go for past simple. The fifth one, she has been being late for work recently. In this case, you can see that I've used the word recently, so you might think that we should use the present perfect continuous form. But then, the verb used is being. Be is a stative verb, so we just use the present perfect simple form with that verb. So we can just say, she has been late for work recently. Because it's a stative verb, we cannot use the ing form. Now moving on to the last question. They have been staying with us since 2 weeks. What's wrong here? They have been staying with us. That part is right. I've used the verb in the right form. Since 2 weeks. Here I'm talking about a period of time, 2 weeks, not about a precise moment. So I shouldn't use since, it should be for. We use for a period of time. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope you have understood today's lesson well. Hey, did you notice that? I just said you have understood, not you have been understanding. And that's what we learned today in our lesson, right? So if you found this video useful, please do like it. And if you are new with me and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it. So meet you in the next session. Goodbye until then. Take care and stay safe.